Welcome back to Library Stress YouTube channel. Today's class we'll be learning how to make this off-shoulder crisscross blouse. It's a very simple tutorial and it's beginner friendly. If this is something you would like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so to make this you need like a tube underneath your pattern. Okay, so this is where your crisscross design is going to rest on. So to draft a tube pattern, I already have a tutorial on it on the channel, but let's just go through this quickly. So now it's going to be an off shoulder, so I'm going off by 6 inches. Okay, so the armhole I'm working with is 8.5 inches, so I have 8.5 inches there. My bust point measurement is 10.5 inches. Under bust is 14 inches, and then my half length is 18 inches. So I'm going to make all this into a straight line. So this is my half length, my under bust, my bust point, and then my armhole. Okay, so the next measurement I'm going to be taking now is my bust span measurement. That's 8 inches divided by 2. It's going to give me 4 inches. So I'm just going to take that on several points to get a straight line. So I have my straight line like this, and this doesn't have to be, the tube underneath it doesn't have to be a bustier. I just choose to make mine a bustier. You don't have to make it, you can just use a regular waist dart. And if you're using a stretchy fabric, you just need to reduce your measurement so that it can fit very well. So you don't need to do all this. So I'm taking a dart of 1 inch on my waist and my under bust, and then I'll make that dart into a straight line. And then on my bust point, I'm going to go downwards by 1/4 inch, and then from there, using my curved ruler, I'm going to connect it in form of a curve on both sides. So this is something we've been doing on the channel, so I'm sure by now we must understand this. Also, for tightening on the upper part here, I'm going to be taking a dart of half inch. You can take 1 inch, but half inch is fine for me because I'm still going to take a bust dart. Then here you can just go up by half an inch or quarter of an inch from your go up from your bust point, and then you can shade these darts out. Okay, so the next thing now is to take our circumference measurement. So my across chest measurement is 12 inches. 12 divided by 2 is going to give me 6 inches. So I have 3.5 here. I'm just going to shift my tape rule and continue my measurements, and I have 6 inches here. So on my armhole measurement here, I'm going to take my bust measurement. But for this, because this is a tube, I don't actually need my armhole measurement, but let's just leave it, then we'll modify this later. So my bust is 10 inches. 40 divided by 4, that's 10 inches. I have 10 inches there. And then on my waist, I'm going to take my waist measurement. So here my waist measurement is 30 divided by 2 is going to give me 7, and divided by 4, sorry, it's going to give me 7.5. So I have 3 inches here, and then I'll move my tape rule and complete my 7.5. So if you're going to be adding a sleeve to this, that's why I just left it like that. You will need your armhole curve, okay, so that you can add your sleeve to it. But if you're not going to be adding a sleeve like me, you don't actually need this curve. So now the next thing now is to determine how deep you want your neckline to be. Okay, so remember we've already gone off by 6 inches, so this is totally up to you. If you want your tube to be showing, okay, if you want your tube to be showing above that crisscross, you can just leave it like this. You can even go as high as 5 inches, but if you want to hide your tube underneath it, you can just make it around 8 inches or 8.5 inches deep. So I have 8 inches there now, and then I'm going to connect the 8 inches to this part. So here now the height also is dependent on you. From your bust point measurement here, you can just measure how high you want this to be. So you have to be mindful of how much cleavage you want to show at this point. If you don't mind, you can just go as low as you can, even make this point here straight. You can maintain what you have here on your armhole measurements, but if you want it to have some form of style lines, you can just connect from this 8 inches now using your curve, so that you can have something slightly curved like this. So from there, I'm just going to connect. Remember I said I don't need this armhole, but I did this for in case you want to add a sleeve. Okay, so I may add that picture of a crisscross with sleeve, so you will need this your armhole point. So for me, I don't need this. I'm just going to connect it like this, and this is going to be my top. So I'm taking a bust dart of 2 inches here. So here I'm just going to measure the 2 inches, and then I'm going to connect it to my bust point. So this is my bust dart. So now I extend this line to this other side and then draft my back bodice. Okay, so this is just a rough sketch. If you want a detailed tutorial, I already have a tutorial on how to draft a tube top on the channel, so you may want to check that out. So you don't need your under bust measurements. I just made a mistake there. Then this, I need my armhole measurement. Okay, so this is my armhole, and I'm going to be maintaining these measurements. Remember, we're going to be sewing these together, and here I've already chopped off all these upper parts. My side seam starts from my armhole level, so which means for your back also it has to start from this armhole level so that they can rhyme. And then also for this back bodies, remember the 2 inches that I'm taking here, so that it can match each other, I'm going to be reducing my back half length by 2 inches also. Okay, so this line now, I don't need it again. I hope we're not confused. Okay, so this is where my armhole stops. So all this now is no longer, this is where my back length stop. All this measurement now is no longer needed. So I'm just going to draft my back bodies, and then you can continue. Okay, so now the back is drafted. This is my zipper allowance, and this is my dart. Okay, so I just cut this excess out so that it will be obvious. This shortage, I just cut it out so that it's not going to confuse us. So now I'm going to cut out, and you can see that I stopped this on this level. So if you want this to be lower, you can just measure the depth you want and then connect it back to this armhole, because it's important to connect it back to this armhole so that by the time you close the dart, you have the same measurements for the side seam so that they can match each other. So now I'm cutting my front. Okay, and then I'm going to close this dart. So cut it to the tip of the, I can also cut your dart, whichever one is fine with you, but I just want to close this dart first so that I can show us. Okay, so I've closed this now. Then you blend in any shortage you may have there. So now you can cut out the dart. So the reason why I did that is I want to show us the difference. So now let me cut the back first so that I can quickly do that. So like I said again, if you don't understand all of this, I have a detailed tutorial on how you can draft a tube blouse. So you may want to check that out. And it's not compulsory you have this exact design, it may be without the dart. So see what I was saying, it have to match like this. Okay, so now I'll cut out the dart and then go ahead and cut this on my main fabric. Then I'll bring it back to show us. Okay, so I've cut this on my paper. Remember, there is no allowance on my pattern, so I had to add my seam allowance for both the front and back. This is the central front, side front, center back, and side back. So the first thing I'm going to do now is to join my darts together. I'll sew in my darts, and then I'm going to sew the front and back together so that I'll have one piece, and then we can move to our crisscross design. Okay, so now I'm gonna head to sew in my dart. As you can see, I used a contrasting color of thread so that we can see it, and then I went ahead to join it on the side. So now you don't need to actually join it on the side, but I just had to do this so that we can have them together in one piece. The reason I said you don't need to join it on the side is because we're still going to be inserting our crisscross to the side, so we can as well join everything together. But I just had to join this so that I can explain this to us. So now to cut out our crisscross, the width of the crossing depends on, is entirely up to you. It depends on how wide you want this to be. So for me, I want it to cover up my entire side seam. So what do? I just measure what I have on my side seam, and I have around 7.5 inches. So because I'm going to be adding maybe a peplum or a skirt to this, I need to leave that allowance. So I'm just going to make it 7 inches. So now I'm going to be cutting a fabric of 7 inches long. So because I'm going to be folding this, because I'll be using a lining to this, I'll make it 14 inches including allowance. Okay, so I'm going to be cutting a fabric of 14 inches long, and the width of the fabric, the 14 inches width, that's how wide it's going to be. And the length of this fabric now is dependent on the measurement of your client. So you need to measure around where this design is going to go through. Okay, so like I was saying, I'm going to be inserting this on my side seam. So it now depends on you. It can start from here and then go upward, but in my case, I wanted to cover up my entire side seam. That was why I took that measurement. So now you need to take your measurement from this side seam here, because it's going inwards like this, all the way to the bust area and then to the hem. Okay, then after taking your measurement to the hem, you take it to the back, to the center back. That's where the design stops, and here I have around 31.5 inches. So you need to measure that on your client so that it's not going to be too tight or too loose, because you need it to be firm. So after taking that measurement now, okay, so I'm going to cut a fabric of length 14 inches. The width is going to be 14 inches like I said. Okay, so the width of the fabric is 14 inches, and then the length is 31.5. So I made mine 33. Okay, I made it 33 because I'm still going to turn it on this upper part, because I want it to be neat. So I just added that allowance. So now on the 14 inches side, I'm going to put it on fold like this. So I'm going to have 7 inches. Okay, so on the 14 inches side, I'm putting it on fold, and then I'll have 7 inches. So I'll go over to my sewing machine now and then sew it all around and leave a space to turn it out. So I'm going to be doing it for the two, because you need to cut two for this, because you're going to be using two crisscross for this. Okay, so I've gone ahead to sew it. So now this tiny space that I left is what I'm going to use to turn it out. Okay, so this is ironed now. I can see how flat it is. Okay, so now we're going to be inserting this into our bodice. So to do this now, I'm going to bring in my bodice, and then I'm going to loosen it on the side seam, because I'm going to be passing this inside my side seam. So now I'll take my seam ripper and loosen the two side seams. Okay, so I'm going to pick one of this now, and then I'll tuck it inside my side seam here. Okay, and then I'll pin it. Remember, when I was cutting this, I added allowance to it. Instead of 31, I added 33 inches because of the side seam allowance. If you don't add allowance into your side seam, you may want to place it at the tip here, so that you don't have any shortage when you're taking this round to your arm. So you should add this allowance so that you will not have any shortage on this side. So now I've added this now, and then I'm going to place the back that corresponds with this, and then I'm going to pin it together. So So when you're pinning this, once if you want to add maybe a skirt or peplum to this, you need to leave that space before you pin this. So you can leave half an inch for that. And then you should, before you do this, you must have turned this with lining so that it will be neatly finished. Okay, so this is the requested tutorial and I just had to quickly do this, but you should make yours as neat as possible. So if you put it now, this is what you're going to have when you sew it. So you're going to pick the second one and then you're going to tuck it in between your main fabric, your front and back bodies also. And then again I'm going to pin this. So you can take this to the sewing machine now and sew it before we bring it back to continue. Okay, so I've gone ahead to stitch them together. Now you can see my crisscross is inside my front and back seam. So now I made sure that this goes all the way to my side seam. If you don't want this to go through your side seam, you can actually measure how long you want this to be. So let's say you want it to be just 4 inches into the side seam. So from the hem you measure your 4 inches and then you first gather these 7 inches to the 4 inches before you insert it to just the 4 inches. Okay, I hope you saw that. Okay, if you want it to just be 4 inches long, from the hem here you measure your 4 inches. Then this strap that you inserted, you're going to gather it to the 4 inches and then you just apply it to this 4 inches. Then you're not going to be having anything from the underarm up to this place, but I want mine to go all the way through. That's why I have it like this. So now this is the second one. Now I'm going to arrange this well. Then I'm going to pick this. Okay, so if you are picking the right side, you're going to take it all the way to the zipper area for the left side like this. Okay, so let me just pick it. This is my main bodice, so I'm picking this now. I'll take it now all the way to my back, my center back for the other side like this. Okay, and then if I'm picking, when I'm picking this now, I'll take this all the way to the right side. So now I'll just lift this up and then press it under it like this, and then I'll take it all the way to the zipper area for the back, which is here. Okay, so now I'm going to, remember I said you must have turned all this so that it's going to be neatly finished. I'm going to add this. You should add enough allowance to accommodate your zipper allowance also. So I'm going to pin this. Okay, I'll pin it like this and then take it to the sewing machine and sew. So when you are sewing in your zipper, you sew in this overlap also with it. But if you did not add extra allowance to it, then it means it has to be external. So you just remove your zipper allowance, then it means this side is also have to be neatly finished like this. So you just exclude your zipper allowance and then place it like this before you now add your zipper, so you have something like this. So that depends on the amount of allowance that you had. So I'm going to pin this now, and then on the other side also I'll pin it. And then I'm going to take it to the machine now and sew. So you can see our crisscross effect. So this is one underneath and this is coming up above it. So this is what we are going to be having. So after sewing it now, you can see what we have here. I'll take it to the mannequin so that I'll see what we have. So this is what our blouse is looking like. You can see the crisscross running from the waist area all through the bust and then to the back. So you can see that my tube is not showing on the upper part. That's because I went as low as 8 inches. So if you did around 5 inches, it's possible that your tube will still going to show on your bust area like this. So this is the full view of the blouse, and I hope you enjoyed making this tutorial with me. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.